The year was 1906. It was a cold December day in Brant Rock, Massachusetts. On December 24th, 1906, Reginald A. Fessenden was hard at work. He was creating the first radio broadcasting system. Hi, I'm Devin Krause, and you're listening to WJHS 91.5 The Eagle. Welcome to Media in the Making, a podcast where we look at the evolution of media from 1600 all the way to present day. This podcast series, we ask, how have different forms of media evolved and changed culture? Media in the Making, where media and culture are always changing. Now let's take a step back in time. Reginald A. Fessenden was born in 1866. He was a Canadian-born physicist. His whole life, he was creating things. In 1886, Fessenden was a tester at Edison Machine Works. After the company folded in 1892, Fessenden turned to an academic career. He wanted to study amplitude modulation. This is a complete system of wireless transmissions and reception by using amplitude modulation. He became a professor of electrical engineering at Purdue, West Lafayette, Indiana, then also at Western University of Pennsylvania. On December 24, 1906, in Brant Rock, Massachusetts, Reginald Fessenden was hard at work. He was working to create the first radio broadcasting system. This was the day that radio broadcasting really started to grow. There were many inventions that pushed radio broadcasting forward. There was one main one that really pushed radio broadcasting forward. It was Lee D. Force's invention. This invention was the audion signal detector. The audion signal detector amplified radio dramatically. D. Force created an entertainment broadcast in 1910 in Wilkesburg, Pennsylvania. This was just one of the many inventions that pushed the very first radio broadcasting system forward. Before this, wireless radio was limited to only coded dots and dashes. The first test on the radio broadcasting system was from Brant Rock, Massachusetts, all the way to Norfolk, Virginia. They are 606 miles away from each other. It was just along the coast. It included a phonograph record of O Brahma, My Fu Largo by George Frederick Handel. The first song that was ever played on the radio was O Holy Night. It was played on the violin by Reginald A. Fessenden himself, the creator of the first radio broadcasting system. Here's a clip. Listen to the background.
Good evening. I will play O Holy Night on the violin, followed by a short passage from the Bible.
The ships of the U.S. Navy were used to receiving a Morse code message, but for the first time, they heard a human voice on their receivers, that of scientist Reginald Fessenden, who studied under Thomas Edison.
After playing Handel's Largo from his phonograph, he played O Holy Night on his violin and ended by reading a passage from Luke 2 about a day in Bethlehem when Jesus was born.
And suddenly there was with the angel a multitude of the heavenly host praising God and saying, Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace, goodwill toward men.
November 2nd, 1920, the first commercial radio station was created. It was called KDKA. Another one of the first radio stations was WWJ. These two radio stations were created around the same time. These were the two main radio broadcasting stations around the 1920s. This really started the golden age of radio. The radio really started to spike from the 1920s to 1950s. As public demand grew for the radio, millions of people became listeners all across America. With this being mentioned, 1920 to 1950 was known as the golden age of radio. During the 1930s to 1940s, medium of commercial broadcasting radio grew. This is just a brief overview of the first radio broadcasting system. Reginald A. Fessenden changed the media world for the better. With this invention, now in 2021, we are able to hear news from all over the world with just a push of a button. It's crazy that radio broadcasting has evolved this much. Radio broadcasting is a big part of all of our lives today. We listen to it in the car or as we clean the house. There are many different parts of our lives that radio broadcasting has affected. Media in the Making is brought to you by WJHS 91.5 and the Eagle Tech Academy media classes. Media in the Making, teaching you about the evolution of media throughout history and its effects on culture. For more from the students, more podcast series are on the 91.5 website, wjhs915.org. Thank you for joining us.